Hello guys, I just played a game on chess.com that I decided to share with you because it has got a lot of educational value in my opinion. It is a game that I'm very proud of that I won because my opponent played a line that is ridiculously hard to win against, and in particular if you have got a decent opponent as white, if they try not to beat you too hard, meaning that they are somewhat lame enough to be content with the draw, it's occasionally very difficult to beat those guys. Now, a couple of thoughts about playing for a draw. Amateurs very often think that the best way to play for a draw is to play for a dead equal position. It's wrong. If you want to play for a draw, you need to stand a little bit better. Because in a dead equal, no one is going to give you a draw. Magnus Carlsen makes a living out of winning equal positions. If you want to draw, you need to stand a little bit better. That's basically it, and that's where my opponent went wrong in this game, where he always played for equality from the get-go till the end, and eventually he got outplayed. Needless to say that the line that occurred in the game is the exchange Kings India, which is yeah, remarkably lame. I would rather chop my hand off than play a line like this as white, especially against the King's Indian. But once again, it's very safe. So if you know your trade, it's very difficult to lose in this as white. But lately I've found a very clever way to play against this whole setup for black that is still that draw, but I quite enjoy doing it. I used to play the c6 variation, which promises somewhat more complex positions, but yeah, I haven't had much success with it lately, so I thought that I would switch back to the old rook e8, which intends to hang on to the pawn on e5 and allows knight d5. Now knight takes d5, c takes d5, c6, bishop c4 has been known to theory forever, and there were lots of ways how black tried to squeeze something out of this business. Most of those tries were based around this queenside expansion, and then trying to develop the bishop here, the knight here, and so on, trying to conjure up some active queenside play. But if white knows what he's doing, and why wouldn't he? He has to learn one freaking line to cover a whole empire opening. How retarded is that? Then yeah, he can stand rather comfortably here. And then I read an article. It may have been actually in Great Predecessors, which is an absolute must to anybody who touches chess pieces. If you haven't read it, slap, go buy it and read it from cover to cover. Fischer was the genius, what a surprise, who came up with this idea of taking on d5 and then playing knight d7. It's a rather obscure concept at first, and I didn't even understand until it was revealed to me. The whole idea is that we want to kick the bishop out from here, and when it goes back, we play knight f6, hitting the bishop and the pawn, which means that we'll take one or the other next, both of them giving us a very comfortable position. And there is not really an ideal way to meet this threat. For white, my opponent played for the most drawish, or went for the most drawish line. Once again, what a surprise, by playing knight d2. So the concept behind this is that after h6, bishop e3, knight f6, now he's covering e4, but at the cost of allowing knight g4. So he drops his bishop back, and I played knight g4. And essentially I would say that the position now here is dead equal, which apparently makes him happy enough and should make me happy enough too. But the problem is that this is a dead equal position with symmetrical structure. If you have got a dead equal position with pieces all over the shop, even grandmaster level, it can easily go one way or another. With symmetrical structures, it requires very refined skills. Karpov, Smyslov are two of the two players who come to mind who won very famous games with symmetrical pawn structures and dead drawish looking positions, and yet they managed to squeeze it. And I'm not saying that I belong to that group, because I certainly don't, but I quite enjoyed squeezing a win from this position for black. I played bishop f8. I need to get rid of with this crap here on g7. I'm biting into granite, so yeah, swap is a must, and in fact that's the only way to exploit the fact that the bishop went to c5. He took me, I took him back, and he played king e2, still playing totally standard stuff. Yeah, nothing is going on. I played bishop e6. Simply there is no way to play around the bishop on c4, because as soon as it places itself on d5, it's just far too strong. So I played bishop e6, he went rook c1. At least, yeah, he didn't take me. So here I was really concerned about this game going really sadly towards a boring draw. I was looking at rook c8, didn't like the look of takes, and then I had to give up the c file. So then I thought, how could I do something active here? And then I realized that rook d8 is not only a very logical developing move, but it's a splendid cheapie, threatening rook takes f2, winning the game on the spot. So I thought, cool, let's do that. So then my opponent took me on e6. I took him back, and then he played. Wow, I forgot what he played. Let me check this. That's hugely embarrassing. Oh yeah, he jumped back to f3. I'm an idiot. Yeah, so to prevent that threat, he jumped back to f3. I drop back to f6. e5 is not hanging because I take here and e4. So e4 is the only one that is actually hanging. So he played bishop takes e6. I took back with the rook. I reckon my position here is slightly advantageous because being that symmetrical, both of my rooks are developed, although this is rather crappy, but at least it has the potential to go that way. And his king is slightly better developed than mine, but currently the king's position is not nearly as important than the rooks as the rooks. And the knights, of course, are identical, so there is very little to say about that. So basically it all comes down to that I'm attacking his pawn, he's not really attacking mine. He played rook c4, guarding it sideways, and that was the moment when I thought that if I don't do something right here, right now, this game is going to be just, yeah, going towards that dreaded draw. So I played b5, forcing the rook to b4, which is a very awkward spot for the rook, really, because it means that it had to depart from this beautiful c file, and guess what? I took control right away. And I think that from here on, I'm playing a near perfect game actually as black, and actually up to here, I guess I played really accurately too. So not that I want to praise myself, but hey, pretty epic stuff. Yeah, so the idea, of course, was that that was gonna happen, but I was really hoping for a splendid finish like this, which is quite an amazing checkmate. But let's face it, that was not realistic that it would happen. So yeah, I was considering also knight here, check, and then king e3, and perhaps the computer would tell you that white is at least equal or maybe even better here. But from a human's point of view, playing a position like this as white is definitely not a walk in the park, and just human instinct tells you to stay clear and get the hell out of here. So for this reason he went again for the lamest rook d1, rook c2 check, and rook d2, trying to swap everything off as best as he can. And now there was only one way for me to squeeze something out of this position, but I think it actually does win by force, and that is rook takes, knight takes, and pawn a5. So what this move does is that it forces the rook away from the e4 pawn. There are no in-between moves now with either king here to attack my rook, because rook takes d2 check and then take on b4 wins. So he's forced to take b5 and I get to take e4. The reason why it's super strong is because now I'm threatening to win a piece, or yeah, close enough, and for that reason he had no choice but to play king d3 to attack both of my pieces. And now this rook ending, I believe, is a win for black, simply because he can never have two connected pass pawns here, and inevitably I am going to have two connected pass pawns on this side of the board. He chose to play here rook takes, I took here. So the idea is the same again, that you don't want to allow two connected pass pawns because it's very difficult to play against, even if you technically are material ahead like I am now. After b4 it's literally anybody's game, because in a scenario like this it's not the number but the quality of the pawns that matters, and his pawns are mighty fast and his king is in a commanding position to stop and hold mine. So it was crucially important to take this pawn, reducing the number of pass pawns on this side to 1 and still threatening these two dudes. Now he didn't want to allow me to take g2 because that would have given me these two pass pawns. I think it's a bit of faulty thinking because he could have taken on e5 right away. So he chose to play g4, and in doing so essentially reducing my 4 pawns to only one pass pawn. And materially speaking, it's logical, but in reality, I'm going to create two connected pass pawns regardless of what he does, and once that's the case, his one pawn should not amount to enough counterplay. However, the game ended actually rather quickly, and that's because of another very, very neat find that I managed to spot. After king takes e5, I played king g7. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Some king f6 rookmate shenanigans would have hurt a lot. And here he played losing a4. It looks very logical, but the problem with this particular move is that, funnily enough, it takes away the a4 square from the rook, which means that now after the very odd looking rook h4, he has no way to guard the pawn. The point of rook h4 is that I'm hitting that way, so if the king drops back, then after h5 I still win the pawn. Out of desperation he went rook a8, instead I took, he played a5, went behind the pawn, he pushed and I pushed, and that's it, pretty much it's game over. Just for the record, if you try to win this endgame for white, imagining that I don't have any of these pawns, you should never ever push this pawn in here. It's a horrific mistake, because once you do that, the rook can never leave the back rank without losing that pawn. You should always leave this pawn here, bring the king down here, and then leave with the rook, and then push the pawn. He pushed in, but it was irrelevant, and after h4 he decided to resign the game, which was a perfectly sound decision because... Oh, actually, no, he didn't resign, sorry. He kept on running towards my rook, and that was the point when he gave up. But he could have resigned earlier. He simply can't do anything against my pawn. His rook is utterly stuck, and yeah, he's just hopeless. So I think that actually it was pretty much a flawless game played by me, and I'm not saying it because I want to say that I'm such a great player, but because it's reasonably easy to play a simple position like that, but at the same time it's actually difficult to play if you have the intention to win it, but you also don't want to go berserk and going all in. So I think that I've played a fairly fine positional game where I played very well justified moves that allowed me to sort of step out of that drawing margin and score eventually victory against the FIDE master. By the way, it happened on chess.com. This is the game. So my opponent was biostatistician, who is a Spanish FIDE master, a quite decent player. So yeah, that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be back with more soon. Thanks for watching.